All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Street Hockey Life podcast. It's been about a little over a year now that we've been on the podcast. We've been really busy with our own street hockey rink. So, but we're good to be back. We're good to sort of realign with our goals for this particular show, if you will. So tonight, Dan and I are joined by two very, very, very special guests. One that I know well, Beth Marhefka, who I wrote the USA Ball Hockey magazine on. And then a newcomer, Anne Girtz. These two ladies are U.S. national champions, well, world champions now, I should say. They competed over in the Czech Republic in the ISBHF Masters division and are the first to win a gold medal. So we have a very special show this evening or morning, wherever you're watching this from. And we're going to get their story and a little bit more on how they're growing the game out in their neck of the woods, which is out in the Pacific Coast, which is how many miles, Dan, from California to Massachusetts? I don't even know. 3,000, maybe more.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. So, but how you doing, Dan? Dan just finished his basement, so I'm going to put him on the spot tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, we're happy to be back. Essentially, we had a long layoff, I would say, but essentially what we're going to do for this one is we're just kicking off a new season. We kind of had 6 episodes in the first season. This is season 2. So a big kickoff. I'm excited, particularly tonight. Every time I've been involved with this podcast, it's always been new for me. Kyle has really brought me into the ball hockey world as he's gotten to know so many different people. So particularly, we've spent a lot of time on the NBHL and things like that. But when you're talking about growing the game specifically for women and things like that, it's particularly personal for me because I have 7-year-old twin daughters who they've played in the Chipmunks in our own program. We've kind of been dabbling in, we started and learned to skate this year, kind of dumped them into hockey, which was really just learning how to actually use your edge work and stuff. But it's, they kind of deal with not necessarily anxiety, but, the fear. Like we watched Mighty Ducks, and I think they thought that's what they were going to be doing day one. And so it's fascinating kind of how they, approach things, but then if they stick with it, then they really love it. And then it really helps with their confidence moving forward. So, and just the last thing I'll say is they do use sticks, and they immediately were almost the best ones out there in terms of, just being comfortable with hockey sticks because how much street hockey they've played. So that translated really well, and I think was really gratifying for them as well.
Yeah, looking pretty good. Dan sent me some videos, so not gonna my girls won't get on the ice yet. They are just gonna stick with street hockey for right now, so we'll see. And we built a backyard rink this year, which is, we didn't have much ice at all. We had maybe 5 or 6 skating days out here in New England because of the weather. So but they did get out there and they just kind of walked on it. But they do enjoy the stick work, and I can tell they're getting more comfortable playing with, especially this year when they're getting ready to go on the real rink that it's just about done. So, but anyway, let's turn over to you guys. Beth, yeah, hey. Tell us a little bit about how you guys got into the game of ball hockey. I'm just going to let you guys roll, whoever wants to start first. So
Beth, you want to go for it?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I almost hate to admit it, but I think it was like 20 something years ago. I started playing ball hockey. Back then we called it deck hockey. I was not an ice hockey player. Like, I cannot skate to save my life. Like, just can't do it no matter how many times I've tried. I was an athlete though growing up. So I played softball, field hockey, basically all different kinds of sports. And then after college, it was like, well, now what? So I started playing. I was living in Pittsburgh at the time, and I started playing in all these different adult leagues, kickball and dodgeball. And I happened to play on a kickball team with a girl who played deck hockey, and she saw a field hockey sweatshirt I was wearing. She invited me to come play. She said, have you ever played deck hockey? I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. She said, you probably played it in gym class at some point. You should come and try it. So one day I showed up, I had no equipment. Like, I just borrowed stuff from the people that were there, and literally I've been playing ever since. So yeah, it was really just such a special like community. Right away, I loved the social aspect of it. I loved that you could be physical and I could still be like a competitive athlete. But I loved that it was just a bunch of friends like getting together and playing. And that's still kind of what it is. Still like a physical, athletic, competitive outlet for me, but with a group of friends, and it's super social for me. So yeah, I got into it because I just wanted to keep playing like something, you know, as an adult. And here I am literally like 20 years later, still playing it. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, well, when will you stop? And I was like, stop? Why would I stop? Like, I'll keep playing until I can't. And it's funny because I think back, there were people on that team that had to like, you know, ace bandage all different parts of their body and like put on different like, you know, wraps and whatever, braces. And I was like, man, shouldn't they like stop playing because they have to do all of this to prepare? And now that's me. I'm the one putting on like the knee brace and like icing before and after and doing all the things. And like, yeah, this is normal. Like this, you know, why would I stop? So yeah, that's how I got into it. No hockey like history in my family at all. It was just somebody asked, I said, sure. I tried it. And like I said, I've been playing ever since. So.
Yeah, I think, you know, Beth and I have talked about this a lot. I think one of the really special things about ball hockey is that there's so many different backgrounds of all the people that play. Like it was really exemplified so well on our masters team. We had, you know, soccer players, flag football players, of course, field hockey, ice hockey, but really it's so accommodating and so welcoming for all types of and I think that's just really unique of the sport itself. And you don't really find that in a lot of other sports. And you do have people, you know, like me and others later in life getting into this and like really starting to love it and succeeding. And so, yeah, my story really is very, very recent. I've only been playing for a year and a half, and I feel so grateful that I, you know, got to go play for my country last year. But I was ice hockey hard growing up. I grew up in Minnesota. So we say we learn to skate before we can walk. And I truly did. And I played with the boys growing up through high school because there was no women's programming. Played in college at the University of North Dakota in a Division I program. And, you know, at that point, you've played for, you know, 20 years of your life or 15 years of your life. And it does start to, you develop a special relationship with hockey. You're doing it almost every day. You're under a lot of pressure to perform. And some days you absolutely love it. And some days it's the last thing you want to do is go to the rink. So, you know, I played throughout college for my 4 years there. And then I went actually out to Canada and lived, and I played in some leagues over in Canada. They had the Western Women's Hockey League at one point, and it disbanded or dissolved. And then I went over and played in Sweden. They have a ton of women's professional and, you know, semi-professional leagues out there. Was lucky enough to go over there and play in a couple of those leagues. At first, I kind of did it as something fun, and because I wanted to travel, and it seemed like a great way to do that. And you know, there was a year or two of it being fun and feeling new. And then that same feeling of like the love-hate relationship with hockey started to creep in again. And I was just kind of burnt out on it. So I was there playing for like 4 years, ended up coming back to the US, landed in California, found some women's hockey program here. I play with the Lady Ducks. It's adult women's, like national championship, but it's like adult whatever. So that was still, you know, we call it beer league hockey, but it's competitive enough. We play against the men. So I'd met through that some, it's a lot of old Division I players. One of the women that played is named Molly Schaus. She plays for the US women's hockey team, or used to, as a goalie. So I got to know them pretty well. And one day she called me up, this was like June 2021, and said, hey, there's this thing that I think you'd be really good at. They're having tryouts in Irvine, which is really close to us here in Southern California. It's called ball hockey. And I think because you love to run and you've been playing hockey your whole life, you'd be great at it. I was like, I don't know, Molly. And Molly's an amazing person. And she's the kind of person where if she tells you something or recommends something to you, you have to kind of take it to heart. And, you know, she's doing it for a reason. So it was like, well, I you know, think about it. And I kind of asked her, like, what do I need for equipment? I had really no idea what I was kind of getting into or what to expect. And I actually, you know, guilted one of my ice teammates on that Lady Ducks team to come out with me to the tryout. And so this was the tryout for the national team, the USA women's national team. They had a bunch of tryouts that year in different places in the US. I think they'd worked really trying to expand their reach as well. So I tried out for that. We had a 2-day tryout. And my body has never been so wrecked in my entire life. from running on concrete. They were putting us through, like, you know, combine drills for the last day of it. And my body was completely wrecked, but it was so much fun. And I didn't know, you know, any of the girls except for, you know, this girl I brought with me from my team. And Beth was there. So she was at the second day of tryouts, and I, you know, she was introduced as a women's national team player, and we didn't really know what that meant at that time, right? We're just kind of out there for fun and to see what it is. And the tryout ended, and I was like, all right, I'm done. Well, you know, that was fun. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go home and ice my shins for 2 weeks. And I was leaving the rink, and I hear this like woman screaming my name. And I, you know, I like turn around, I'm exhausted, and I like just want to get out of there. And it's Beth. And so this is like kind of fun, like imagery. Like Beth has to have really long hair. She puts it in these braids sometimes, like these like pigtail braids. It's like very like a powerful like look for her. I don't know. And so it was like I was really intimidated of her, like on the deck. And then she's coming up to me, and like I was like, okay, hi. And I don't know, Beth, maybe you can like tell what you said, but I don't really remember.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, Anne, I don't even know if you know this now at this point, but so Molly, who Anne mentioned, and I are friends, and Molly also happens to be best friends with one of our other Team USA teammates. And so Molly and I had spoke long before this tryout, and I didn't know Anne, but I was encouraging her to let people know about this tryout. So I had been asked to participate if I wanted to, with the tryout to help run some things. And they were doing a youth clinic afterwards. And based on like what I do with my local rink, they asked for us to be involved. So we showed up, and we were just having fun. And right away you could tell, like, Anne just stood out. She just stood out for a number of reasons. And for me, it's really important to grow the women's game, also grow the youth game, especially here in California. So when I saw Anne walking away, I was like, I got to get to this woman and make sure she has an opportunity like to play. And I want to meet her, and I want her to come and play with us. And so I literally just introduced myself, you know, and said, hey, you know, if you want to keep playing and you want to play ball hockey, come play with us in Garden Grove. I run a league called Pacific Coast Hockey with some of my partners. Come and play with us. Bring any of your friends, you know. And I gave her, I think I gave you my information, or I said, you know, I'll get your information, coach. And that's so funny to hear that Anne was intimidated, because I was intimidated by her watching her, you know, hockey skills out there. And yeah, you looked exhausted, and I'm like, here I am running after this woman after she's like literally left it all on the rink. But yeah,
we joke about that now, and you know, my thoughts, because it felt very obscure to me still, like this sport that I'd never heard of, and they have a national team, and there's this organization around it that seems to be legitimate. And you know, we joke now that I said in my mind, like, yeah, I'm never going to see that woman in my life again. Right?
No, it's that crazy woman, that crazy woman.
Yeah,
not that woman, that crazy woman.
So
yeah.
You know, as you know, I don't know if Beth emailed me or I emailed her about her league. I'd gotten the call back from the national team to come to the next tryout. So I wanted to come play locally to, you know, practice before I went to this next tryout, and went by myself to Garden Grove, where Beth runs her Pacific Coast Hockey League. And yeah, like happened upon the most like welcoming and like unique little league that I've like ever been a part of. So that's how I got into it. Yeah, I guess we can maybe later get into the world championships and stuff, but it's been a really like whirlwind and amazing year. And you know, a lot of that does have to do with Beth and her being, you know, welcoming and trying to grow the game. And I've kind of assumed that, you know, that role with her, and we have kind of the same goal to do that out here. You know, I grew up with no options but to play men's hockey or boys hockey, and it just makes such a difference if you have, you know, females playing and that you can talk to and you have as role models. And the women's ice hockey game is growing so much, and I think we can, you know, we want to leverage that, and I think we can, and I think it's just a matter of time till we get that, you know, on the street hockey, ball hockey side.
Awesome. That's awesome. So with Beth chasing you down, what made you decide to say, all right, I'm gonna give this a whirl? Or
yeah, I think, you know, it was the opportunity to play for your country is like, I feel something is really special. I felt really lucky to even get invited to try out for that national team. And I honestly was like, I have to do this, you know, like, and I don't think I could have made another decision. Yeah. Like I would have regretted it. And so I went and tried out for the national team. And of course that's different than, you know, the masters team that Beth and I play on, but I ended up kind of deciding to play for the masters team instead of the national team for kind of personal reasons, and a little bit to do with, you know, how I wanted hockey to be fun and I didn't want it to be super stressful. And that had to do with kind of my background in the ice hockey and that relationship I had with it. So the masters team just offered, I thought, you know, a chance to be around people more my age, have it be a little less serious. Of course, it's still competitive, but
sure.
When I met these women on the masters team, I mean, I immediately knew I made the right decision, and couldn't imagine, you know, having done it any other way.
So what type, you know, obviously Beth talks about your skill, and what does Beth bring to the table? What's her specialty other than looking intimidating to others, I guess, right? With us.
So Beth is one of our captains on the masters team. And we kind of like joke about the roles that each of our captains play. And Beth is truly the spiritual gangster of the team. She is the most positive person, the most inclusive person. Wants what's best for everyone, and like meeting in a minute after meeting her, you would know this. And I think in any sport and in life in general, those type of people are so rare to come by, and to have that person, you know, on your side supporting you and leading a team is just it's so rare. Beth, I think, you know, there were times when up until the tryouts and even this year that Beth and I, you know, we talk personally, and she questions whether she should be on the team. And like, okay, Beth isn't on the first line or, you know, the all-star out there, but what she brings in, you know, bringing the team together and positivity and support and all of this stuff that you can't, you know, name and put stats to is so important. And that's what she brings. And I awesome. Ask for a better teammate or like friend now being that because of that. Yeah.
How close do you guys live to one another as well?
We're like 20 minutes without traffic is what we say in Southern California.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of it.
So we're close. We've gotten like really close. You know, we've had to travel a ton for the US team, you know, for going out, we have to go out east all the time for camps and such. So we got really close, and it's really cool. You know, that's a really like bonus side of this whole thing. And honestly, Beth was a big reason that I decided to play on the masters team instead of the national team. I would have been the only one out in California on the national team, flying out there all by myself with, you know, being on team with 25-year-old women, and it would have just been a whole different experience. And again, that's what I was looking for, something different in life at this point.
That's awesome. I mean, what I can relate to you guys, Danny and I, we started a tournament back in 2018 to raise money for the rink that we are currently almost finishing up. And our treasurer at the time said, well, why don't we make it an Ironman tournament? And we're like, well, what does that mean? So we're like, yeah, let's do it. You know, so we had 6 teams. Was it 6 teams, Dan, in the first year? I think we did. I remember
6 or 7, yeah.
6 or 7. And what we did is, you know, our treasurer designed it because he had more experience with Ironmans, and we played at an ice hockey rink where they took the ice down in the summer. So we scheduled this out, and it probably was around 150 feet, maybe 160, maybe a traditional, because we weren't going to run the 200 feet like you guys do in an Ironman. And Danny and I played, and I was in worse shape back then than I am now. But yeah, like I couldn't even move the next day. It was just brutal, you know.
It's amazing how your body gets used to it though. Like I go out now and we'll play 3 games on a Sunday, but like running on concrete when you haven't done it really ever. I mean, we run elsewhere, but like it's a hard sport on the body.
It sure is.
Like it is pretty aggressive. We don't have like deck material at Beth's rink. We play on concrete, so the body's used to it now. Who knows what it's doing to my knees though, right? 20 years.
Where is there plans in the to get some tile or surface, Beth, at some point, or?
Yeah, we're actually in process right now of raising the funds. We're working with a nonprofit called Empower Play.
Okay.
And basically with them and their partnership, we'll be putting in 2 brand new rinks.
Nice.
We're looking at later this year, hopefully, if everything comes through the way it's supposed to. So yeah, they'd be 2 brand new, like state-of-the-art tile, no more concrete. Yeah, so everybody's super excited for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That was one of the questions when you guys know Alessandra Glista, and and you know, when we first had a conversation back during COVID times, right when the pandemic started, she's like, are you gonna have a surface in Gloucester? And I said, yeah, of course. You know, one of the big things, I was having a conversation with not Anthony San Rocco, but Matt can't say Matt. He's going to be on the. Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys know Matt. He started NBHL Boston, which is tier 3. So Danny and I have our North Shore Assassins joining that league. And of course, I was approached by some people in Boston saying, how do you go about getting tile on those surfaces? And I said, well, you know, I don't know the answer to that, because you have to talk to the city of Boston. And there's some people think Danny and I live in Boston. We are very much on the suburbs. But it's definitely something. What we like about it is knowing that there's a kid out there that just has a fancy stick that wants to be able to use a stick. He can actually go on the rink, not worry about tearing it up on the concrete. So, and it is Danny and I, when we were kind of trialing these tiles, we went to Leominster and Fitchburg, and we were like, yeah, this is a lot softer than running on concrete or even asphalt. So
I think I've spent more money on hockey sticks in ball hockey than in ice hockey, like because we grind them up on the concrete. Any warrior rep out there, if you want to give me some sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Pacific Coast Hockey, I know you had wanted Beth to be the premier of the program. How's it going right now? How are you growing the sport with the different partnerships? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're definitely growing season on season. We've implemented women's clinics, youth clinics. We partner with, like I mentioned, Empower Play. We have a great relationship with the Ducks. We also have a great relationship with the Kings, which is really nice because in Southern California, there's plenty of fans of both. But there's challenges. I mean, there's challenges everywhere when you're trying to start something new. Like there are women all across the country that I've spoken to and that I'm, in communication with on a regular basis who are trying to start women specific leagues, which is one of our goals out here for Pacific Coast Hockey. But it's a slow go. It really is. Right now, Pacific Coast Hockey has multiple divisions, multiple leagues, but it's all men and women playing together. It's not even technically co-ed, where there are rules and restrictions around like how many women need to be on the ice. So it's great from a training perspective. We get to play with the guys. But it's not always, I think, what as many of the women would want. You know, a lot of it's different when you're playing just with women. So as far as what PCH is up to, we're doing what we can. We feel really strongly that when we get the 2 ranks, that's going to draw a huge crowd and really help us to grow the game, especially with kids. But we also have summer camps this summer that we're putting out there for the youth, which will be super exciting. But yeah, there's all kinds of partnerships happening. There's all kinds of movement happening. But again, it's happening probably slower than I would like. But you know, one of my partners in the endeavor said to me the other day, you know, in 20 years when this thing is huge and it's what we envision and dream of it to be, is this extra year or 2 going to really make a difference? And the fact is no. Like, you just do what you can every day to put something into it to try to grow the game and make it more accessible. So that's what we're doing. And yeah, I mean, it's still our goal to be the premier ball hockey league and hopefully not the only one. I was listening to one of your original podcasts not that long ago with Anthony, where Anthony San Rocco, where we were talking about the NBHL, or you guys were talking about the NBHL, and I totally, you know, would love, like right now, for example, where the Pacific Coast Hockey is the home of the California division of the NBHL, would love it if there was a San Diego division, an Orange County division, an LA division, a San Francisco division, and then we could all compete for like the state cup and then send one representative, you know, or something like that in the future for the NBHL. That's part of the dream, is to make it that big. And really, there's no reason that it can't be. So like I said, I played in Pittsburgh, I played in Philly. And when I moved out here, I couldn't believe the lack of opportunity to play. So it's still part of our mission to really like create that opportunity for people, because I don't think it's a lack of desire or willingness or wanting. I think people just don't even know that it exists as an option. So part of what I love about Anne's story, you know, here she was not enjoying hockey and found ball hockey, didn't even know it was a thing after all these years of playing. And now, you know, loves it. And so, you know, I think there's so many examples out there. Like Anne said, we have women who played all kinds of other sports that came and now are part of our US team. And I think it's a lot about just getting the word out there, you know, like creating awareness for men, women, youth, parents, you know, that this is an option and it's available for people at a much more like accessible. I mean, we all know, right? Much more accessible financially and
Absolutely.
time wise, you know, for people to play. So yeah, we're doing what we can.
What this is sort of curiosity to, you mentioned like the Kings and what was it? What's the other team out there? What, the Ducks? Jeez.
Yeah.
What's it? The Kings? There's the Ducks. Well, who else is out in California?
The Sharks.
Yeah. See, I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know my geometry of geometry. What's the word I'm looking for, Dan?
Geography.
Geography. I don't know California. Thank you, guys.
Just read the teleprompter that we don't.
So early onset Alzheimer's, and maybe that's what I have. I don't know. What's the? I mean, for you, Anna, you come from a cold weather state like we do in New England, where the Bruins are a priority, and you know you get the Wild out there. But what's ice hockey like where you guys are? Is it like is there a mad following for these NHL teams or for ice rinks? What is that?
I think, yeah, I mean, I definitely see the fan following, you know, for the NHL teams. But I think just by function of the weather, and people have the ability to play other sports all year round. So, you know, whereas in, you know, the Midwest and the East Coast, we've got a hockey rink in every town, because that's what we'll do in the winter, you know, that there really aren't as many rinks around here. And so it's just because there's other things that people can do. So, you know, I play in a league in Irvine, which is like 20 minutes away, and it's a men's league, and there's 5 divisions, and it's very, you know, there's a ton of people in it. But yeah, no women's leagues, and it's just not as popular out here as it is, you know, in the Midwest, Southeast. But I don't know if I see that changing. I think, and I don't think that necessarily means that doesn't translate to ball hockey not growing. I think, you know, like we've said, because ball hockey is so, you know, it's so transferable from so many other sports, and it can be an off-season sport or whatever. I think I think the NHL teams and that crowd-based fan base is something we are trying to leverage and have, but I think there's a lot of other avenues as well, like just limited to that.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I remember this was on ESPN many years ago because I was a teenager. But you guys might remember it, is that pro beach hockey where remember they would skate and they'd have a ramp in the back. No.
Okay, no, I don't remember that.
They would play it was roller hockey, but they would have these it was the strangest thing. It was a variation of roller hockey where you could see the beach in the background. I'm not crazy. I try.
No, okay. I know there's a rink.
Dan.
I know there's a rink real close to one of the beaches and maybe it was like retrofit from that, but
yeah.
You mentioned roller hockey, like roller hockey's huge out here. So
okay.
It seems like that maybe those are the people that maybe would be playing ball, everywhere else.
Yeah.
But tons of roller hockey, which is I've never done that either. And that seems like that's way less accessible than like, let's get running shoes on.
I agree. I agree.
I don't want to even attempt roller hockey. I don't know.
Yeah. I would like to find a picture of this now because there was a ramp. I kid you guys not. There was a ramp behind the net where they would literally skate up and it was just a variation of roller hockey. I'm like, I've never seen this.
So it sounds like roller hockey meets like a skate park.
It kind of like that, yeah.
Or like a velodrome.
I mean, I'm gonna worry that people are gonna say this guy is so full of it. I mean, I'm saying geometry.
Put it in the show notes. You'll find it.
Well, it's funny because Kyle was mentioned wanting to switch different podcasting like options than Zoom so that he can display things podcast, and now here he is. Oh, Dan, pull that up.
Yeah,
we believe you, Carl.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, guys. I appreciate. I'm like, I swear I didn't dream this up.
Maybe you're stumbling on something amazing here.
Maybe I am. I mean, they used to. On ESPN, they used to. Roller hockey is always one of those areas that when you say street hockey, people are like, oh, you mean roller hockey? And I'm
right.
like, no,
yes.
No, these are different. There's different variations of the way the game can played. And I don't know if you guys have seen them, but have you guys seen the floorball hockey? I think it's called floorball hockey.
Floorball, yeah.
Floorball, yeah.
You get so I mean, our kids in our summer league, they'll bring out those floorball hockey sticks where they're
funny.
They're doing the Michigan behind the net, and it's like I'm like, I don't know if this is real or not, but I mean, wait till we get to our rink. I don't know if these are allowed. So but again, you don't want to. We don't want to discourage the creativity either of those kids either.
Totally.
That's always been
whatever
important,
you want.
So.
With the stick.
Yeah. If I find this guy, we'll show you guys. I just hope I didn't dream this up as I get older. But you guys mentioned the NBHL. So Anne, are you playing in the NBHL with?
Yeah,
Beth?
we played last season for the first time together. We had a team in the Division 3, Beth, that's right?
Okay,
yeah, tier 3. Yeah.
Tier 3. And we Beth had this grand vision, which I was totally behind, and we tried to make it happen, of getting a mostly women's team in. Of course, it's not a women's division out here. It's all men. There's a few women dispersed on some of the other teams, but it's all men other than that. So we collected this, awesome group of women. We had some women from San Diego that play in the leagues down there, a bunch from Orange County, and a few guys as well. And we did okay. I don't know. We ended up maybe lower half of the season or in the standings. It was, a really cool experience because it feels a little more structured than the Tuesday night leagues that we play at Best Rink. Get to play against other people that we haven't played against, and it was like a higher level of hockey than we've been playing. So it went well. I think we're putting together a team this year. We didn't really go for the only women route. We did kind of put us at a disadvantage, naturally, which was a little frustrating, but all good. So we're getting our team together for this next season, and my goal is to be the first woman to play in the NBHL championship in the men's division. So
awesome.
that's what we're going for this year.
So Carl and Dan, we'll see you guys there. We'll see you in New Jersey. Our teams will meet up. Sorry, we'll beat you.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's
what?
quite-
So you guys play on a tier 3 team?
So Dan and I were asked by Matt, sorry Matt that I didn't pronounce your name correctly. I obviously need to see the name too clearly. But yes, so we were asked to put a team in. We have a group of guys that are local to us that we've known for 15 years, 18 years, whatever it is, and then we have some free agents that we picked up, and we'll see what happens.
Cool. Well, maybe we'll meet you out there in Marvel.
We'll see for sure. I don't even know if we'll make it out of our own division, Dan. I don't know how you feel, but
Yeah, well, you can't really
into it.
predict because of the people, like there's a kind of core group of guys that if we could get them together, we could maybe be competitive, even though we've never struggled to actually have like friends who are goalies, so that's always a challenge.
Yeah.
So it's really like the only experience of playing ball hockey for us is in our own league in Gloucester that we ran, or we put in a team in a tournament in Fitchburg. But that was a similar situation. We had a few core guys, and then we picked up a bunch of kind of odds and ends from other teams who maybe they weren't good enough, so then they gave them to us, and we had enough of a team. But then you ended up like really just being all over the place, where we were kind of competitive, but then kind of struggled. And it is a big shift, from ice hockey. It takes a while to kind of start to say, oh, that's how it's almost more like basketball or boxing out or different things like that, because I'm a defenseman traditionally and things like that. So I've played enough now that I've gotten a lot more used to it and things like that. But this will be nice for us to finally play on a consistent basis, other than just like shooting around outside waiting for this one tournament that we put on.
That's exciting. That's awesome for you guys.
It's
Cool.
it's the hardest part for our group is getting them out of their comfort zone to get them to play sometimes. Our treasurer is actually in Florida, and grew up in Gloucester, where we grew up, and he works for Disney, and so he plays NBHL. He plays all year round down in Florida, and like he's a good guy to mobilize everybody too. He's because Danny and I are a little bit older than some of these guys, which is fine. But I'm excited for it. Like Danny said, it will be more consistent playing. We know some of these guys. We've seen them at the tournament that we played in at the you guys probably might have heard of it, the Outdoor Classic, which is in Fitchburg, Mass. We know some of the guys that are going to be out there playing, so I think it's a perfect level for us. What's impressive to me though for Beth and Anne, I mean, the first tournament I ever played in was North Americans in the novice team. And I was like, these guys are so fast, they're so quick. I'm gonna my brother and I think we could stick handle fairly well from the years of playing ice. But the quickness, the speed, being able to run with the ball, even a straight line, totally different. Different. So for you to just go out there and make that team, pick it up, I give you so much credit, because I'm like, it's just it's a transition, and
it totally is.
A lot of our kids are just, they're like, if we had our skates right now, we could beat everybody, and I'm like, well, we're not playing that game, so we gotta play. You know what I mean? So
well, it's one of the struggles of having. We were talking about, do you draw from people that are hockey players or hockey fans? But it's kind of a challenge, because you end up with kids that either are completely dedicated year round to hockey, or you have the misfits 100%. That we have where you take the hockey kids, you put them in the into a U14 tournament, and they're running around with like real shin pads from their hockey gear, and they can't even bend their knees, and you're like, what are we doing?
Learning curves, steep. The
transition was difficult, and it still is. Like Carl, you say, like running down the deck with a ball straight, it is very difficult. It's a totally different movement and like body placement than ice hockey. And yes, I mean, when we were getting ready for the tryouts for the national team, Beth and her partner Kevin, who run PCH, they ran these little like, Sunday kind of clinics with us to get ready. And like one of the things I was like, can we just run down the rink with a ball? Like I can't do it. It's like it's hard. You're doing, I can do all the other things when I'm like standing or in the corner, but to like run with the ball and run at speed, I still look at some of like the people that do that in awe. And yes, like Dan, you mentioned how fast it is. Like when I went to the national team tryouts, it's just shocking how fast these players that have played for a while. And yeah, that doesn't come easily and that doesn't come quick, no matter how well you can run or fast you can run. It's just such a different, type of thing that you never do in any other sport. So yes, I've had those growing pains fully and sympathize.
Absolutely.
Something though that's awesome about it is like, so Anne, I can remember that very first clinic when it was like we had all the women running with a ball down the rink, and every single one was like, I just touched the ball going down and back for a longer period of time than I do in total during a game. So it's like, but you can literally do that in your driveway. You can do it in your hallway. Like you can do it out in your, in your street. So part of what I love about it is like literally anybody can do it almost anywhere. Like, we have a stick and a ball in our gym, like, and we basically like in between sets will like stick handle, and I have tennis balls and I do different like hand-eye coordination stuff. And so it's like, unlike ice or roller where you have to be on your skates, it's part of what I love about ball is you can like literally do it anywhere. So yeah, the transition, it's like, we hear all the time from people that come over from ice. They're like, oh yeah, like this is the hardest sport I've ever played because I'm just not used to the running. But if you can mentally get past that, it'll probably be like your favorite thing to do, right? Like I think all of us have experienced that. So
that is the like I've tried very hard to get all the women I play ice with to come play, and they've played for like a tournament. I can convince them to come play for a weekend on a tournament, but like really none of them have played in a league, and they say like, I can't run, I don't want to run. And like they really think that's like the main thing, and it is obviously a big part of it, but like you don't have to be like the most in shape runner to play it, right? Like there's so much more than that. But that's a struggle we've had, is like trying to get people mentally past like the running issue.
It's so funny to me because I'm not a runner. Like I hate running. Like I've tried all my life to become a runner and I hate it. But I joke, I'm like, give me a stick and a ball and I'll run like all day. It's like I forget that I'm running, but yeah, it's definitely that's a big challenge, I think. Just overcoming that running, like fear of running.
Yeah, that's what Danny's very good at keeping like a lot of my stuff that we go through, he's the guy that keeps me in check too, and says, yeah, we got to modify this, because I'm can be a dreamer and often la land sometimes. And so when we had the chipmunks going, I'm
roller hockey guys.
The roller hockey guys, yeah. When we had the chipmunks last year, remember our daughter's playing this, Dan's son, so I'm used to coaching the 9 to 15-year-olds. I'm just more comfortable. The older the player is, the more comfortable I am, because I feel like I can relate to them a little better. I don't have a ton of patience with, it sounds terrible. But what I'm saying is like he said, when we do a drill, let's just get the chips to just run with the ball, because they can't even stick handle yet. Just get them to just try to go in a straight line. And I'm like, let's do it, because here in my head, I'm like, all right, we got cones, we can get them, and I'm like, they're just, and so he's great about we're assessing the skill level and modifying it in that sense, because even now, like we're going to have a big transition this coming spring and summer, where a lot of kids that played on a basketball court or they played on a tennis court, you're going to have to run 160 feet, and you're going to be able to, and Danny says it the best. He goes, the ball always moves faster than you do.
Yeah.
So always head man on the ball. And that's a great point. So the days of our kids just firing it from, like, in a basketball court's only 90 feet. So, the firing it, scoring 90 feet is, hopefully those are limited, but you guys are absolutely right. It's been a transition for me, and there's a lot of humility to that too. And I think kind of to your point, and you mentioned the love-hate with the game. We talked offline about this. I definitely had that. I had a tremendous amount of expectations for myself.
Yeah.
And if I could go back and talk to the 15-year-old kid in me, I would say, listen, just play the game
Yeah.
the way you're meant to play it, enjoy it. You don't need to be Bobby Orr. You don't need to be Wayne Gretzky, or, you don't need to be that. And I think that's what draws me a little bit to ball hockey, is the fact that I don't have those expectations.
Totally.
I'm going to go out there and have a good time with it, and I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to my brother and I are 6 years apart, getting to play with him, pass him the ball. That means probably more than things like that. So
I totally agree. I think I know for myself, and I don't know if you can relate to this, like when I played my best ice hockey, it was when it was like totally for fun, right? You're going out there with your friends and there's zero pressure. And I think what ball hockey and what, even the USA team, the Masters team has provided is there is zero expectation on me to do anything. I've been at this for a year.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing to go in there and have, and it's always what the expectations you put on yourself, right? No one else is really has those, but to go in there, no expectation, it just really allowed me the freedom to like have fun, for God's sake, right? Like, with it, and that's when I do my best. So I couldn't ask for more of that kind of thing through this sport. Like that provided me so much.
Excellent. So I want to hear about Dan and I've talked about this, is like I've given him information. We've been in Maine with our dad, and we've watched on YouTube IHBHF tournaments. So we've spent time watching the men's team play. But for the Masters, what's the process like from the tryout to the camps to raising money to going there? What does this process look like, so we all have a better idea? Tough one.
Beth, why don't you go? So Beth has obviously been involved with it for a lot longer. I think she's been to 3 or 4 Masters tournaments. So
Nice.
Take this one to start, and I'll chime in.
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about kind of the upfront process, and then maybe join in. So like Anne said, I have been on 4 teams. So I've seen since 2016, I think was the first team that I played on. The process is pretty similar through the years, but I will say there were some major differences last year and this year that I'm noticing. But like the general process is basically, typically the tournaments are every other year. So about a year before, there are tryouts. Usually it's an evaluation. And then from the evaluation, you're invited to try out. There's a tryout over the course of a weekend. It's usually somewhere on the East Coast. Players are evaluated, and then, they name the team. What's interesting is like the team is never the same. Like from the team that they name from the beginning to the team that plays, it's never the same identical team, because all kinds of things happen during the course of like that year. So the tryouts usually start anywhere from 12 to 9 months before the actual tournament. So once the team is named, then there's a number of camps. And because the team is coming from all over the country, travel's involved, and you have to pay for that travel, and you have to get time off of work and time away from your families and your kids, and all of the things that life entails. So typically they're not mandatory. It's really challenging to tell 22 women that you have to be at 3 to 4 camps over the course of a year, and then play in a tournament that's a week long, and all the expenses and everything that goes along with it. So everybody has always done their best. For the first 2 teams that I was on, I was the only player coming from the West Coast. Everybody else was on the East Coast. So I had a lot of financial barriers and time constraints that kept me from being able to go back for all the camps, which obviously that's, not ideal. Like you don't get to spend as much time with your teammates. You don't have the strategy, you don't have the bonding, if you're not able to be there. So I think that was something that was really different for our team last year, was the majority of the women and the players were able to be at the majority of the camps. And so it really allowed us to bond and to come together as a team, and to, just all those sort of intangible things that really, a team needs to succeed. So the process, it's basically, try out, team is named, you go to as many camps as you can that are usually in different places, typically on the East Coast. And then you travel to where you're going. And there are times where, not last year's team, but in the past, where the entire team hadn't actually played together before the tournament, before getting to Banff or Bermuda, wherever we were, that, the team was like, oh, hi, my name is, and so that's a really different experience. And then you're coming together over the course of that, 3, 4, 5 day tournament. But last year's team, almost everybody made it to almost every camp. We actually all came together and said, hey, is there a way that we can get an extra camp in before we go? Because we just wanted, we wanted to be together. We wanted that extra practice time. And so, we weren't actually having to use the tournament as our time to meet, greet, gel, figure out how each other plays. We had kind of already done that, which was really helpful. So that's sort of what happens leading up to the tournament.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's helpful. So, and then how do you guys
rest, Beth?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the actual
sorry,
tournament?
Carl, go ahead.
ahead.
What'd you ask?
I was going to ask, how do you guys raise money for it? Or is that more like the individual team players are doing this, or is USA Ball Hockey doing this?
Yeah, so we are, we do pay all of our expenses. It is really up to the individual players to raise money in whatever ways they can. USABH has, funding, I guess, a funding structure where, they are a nonprofit. So there's, better avenues to, if you have like a large sponsor. We didn't have any really large sponsors last year for the Masters team. I don't know if the national team did, but that is one thing that Beth and I are really trying to focus on this year, is getting, a more substantial sponsor. But, we put a ton of effort in fundraising on our own too. Beth and I have run a tournament here at her rink. We can rent the rink for free and do that. We do, we did Super Bowl squares to raise money, and it's really,
nice.
Really is like, it's people scraping by with whatever they can come up with to raise whatever money. And it is expensive. And, Beth and I are traveling from the West Coast always to the East Coast for camps and such. So yeah, it is a bit of a burden. Like, luckily we have the means to do it, but some people, and I think there are definitely people that may be wanting to play that can't because of the financial, burden. So we're really trying to, change that and help out so we can get the opportunity equal for everyone.
Yeah, it's USABH is a relatively new organization, even though we've had national teams going to play in these tournaments for years. As an organization, they're still new. And so, working on funding, I know that's a major goal, not just for Anne and I, but for a lot of players and members of USABH leadership. So I think it's really important to not just look at this from a fundraising, like what can we do to fundraise, but future looking of what can USABH and all of the teams do for real sponsorship, because there are women and girls, and I'm sure across the men's teams as well, players that don't even try out, get named to the team and then can't go because their family can't afford it, they can't afford it, they're putting a financial burden on their in their relationship. So we don't ever want that to be that burden to be such. So we do all kinds of things. We have some really fun fundraisers, like Anne said. We're always looking for sponsors, but there's definitely, you guys can imagine, from the travel to camps, there's the actual tournament and what the cost is of the tournament and playing in the tournament, and then there's all the stuff that comes ahead of time. So even paying to try out, so it's a real commitment and dedication. But that's also part of, I think, what makes it special, because you're really committing to being part of this on so many different levels.
Yeah. Now the camps, do you feel like you guys get your butt kicks over those couple days, and then or is it more of like getting the team ready strategically? Oh,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the latter.
The latter.
They know, and like we know, if we don't train, the cardio and that kind of training on our own, we're going to be screwed when it comes to
Okay.
the tournament anyway. So the coaches really they make that clear, and I think everyone knows it, that you got to do that off ice, so that cardio training on your own.
You got it.
Really do spend the time at the camps doing strategy, doing plays, setup, what forecheck are we going to run. What I thought was super, I guess unique and like really appropriate for the camps we did last year with the Masters team is the coaches really, really emphasized the social aspect of the camps and getting to know each other. And we spent just as much time, doing ice breaking, if things, which as corny as it sounds, were literally just as important, if not more important, than this time we spent on the rinks, doing there. So it's both, but yeah, we're doing mostly strategy and bonding.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
When
I would say as somebody who's older than Anne, that I definitely go home exhausted and needing some maybe extra Epsom salt baths. But we put in the work for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, there's so much, like the coaches say it all the time. It's like, we all have been around this long enough that like, we know what we need to do. And you'll know right away, like camp day one, like you'll know if you're not in shape to play, and the coaches will know it and your teammates will know it. And then you come back to camp number 2, in better shape, right? So
it's real social shame motivated. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of training have you found that is most effective in terms of keeping you prepared to be able to, run those distances and things like that? Because I think in a sense, that's an area where, not that we've struggled, but in terms of preparing for, say, the NBHL and things like that, like I spend a lot of time more on the endurance side or running or doing like Orange Theory with my wife. And that kind of prepares us, because we've transitioned from sports to more like, triathlons and half marathons and stuff.
Yeah.
But then, are you guys running wind sprints and putting parachutes on the back, or is it like, what's the formula, I guess?
Yeah, I mean,
And
I think
he's asking for the secret sauce.
okay,
yeah.
Well,
I
so
think that's gonna cost him. We can't give away all our secrets.
Yeah. I mean, what Beth and I joke all the time, there's nothing training for ball hockey like ball hockey. Like really, you need to be on the rink twice a week minimum to keep that endurance over a period of time. I've been off for 2 weeks now, and I'm like have anxiety about going back because I know my cardio just over those few weeks not be the same as it was if I'm every week, twice a week. So that's, I think, the biggest thing. I do a lot of trail running here, so going up elevation and kind of high intensity stuff. Beth has a really amazing trainer that her and I both go and see, who's kind of a wizard with the body and keeping us healthy. So we've got our little toolbox of things, and Beth does some other stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all done it. It's like you do the sprints, you do the long distance, and then you go play hockey and you're like, how am I still tired, right? Like no matter what you do, it's different. But I've noticed as I've gotten older that it's not for me as much about like, I don't have to kill myself with cardio. I have to do like the right amount of cardio. But for me, especially like when we're playing against the guys, I do a lot of like core and lower body stuff to stay strong, and a lot of explosive type movements. I find that it makes a huge difference in my game. But yeah, it takes 2 weeks to lose your cardio. So if you go more than 2 weeks without playing hockey, you're probably going to feel it. But I love, people are always like, oh, I got to get in shape and then I'll come play. And it's like, no, come play. And that will be part of what gets you in shape, right? Because it's also motivation. Like when you're sucking wind, you remember that and you're like, I better do my cardio and my lifts, like all the workouts this week. So personally, Dan, I think it's not about like one thing specifically. I think it's about, this is just my opinion, finding like what you like, what you enjoy, what works for you. And I think different positions and different body types and different like styles of play need different workouts. Our trainer watched us play and he was like, oh my God, I'm changing everything. You know, he is like, I'm changing everything and I know exactly what you need. He's like, but what you need, Beth, and what Anne needs are two different things. So, you know, based on like what our strengths are and the way that we play and all of that. So I kind of think it's like, just do something, just stay active.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like the reason I asked the question is because that's one of the things I've struggled with ball hockey is, or at least, you know, being, you know, a little bit older, playing and feeling like I have to play differently because of my fatigue level, you know, and that's obviously a lot of time, most of our experiences in the Ironman. So it's not you're bound to get tired, but you're like, you miss the days where like you could just, you know, get like a shift and go back out there and be like 100% and not be like, okay, should I go get that guy? Or should I follow the play, or I'll just, you know, I have to like hang back because, you know, to make it another hour or something. And that's, I'm hoping is different because I'm in a lot better shape nowadays. We almost haven't, you know, we had COVID and all these different things. So I've worked out pretty extensively for a long time and haven't played ball hockey in a while. So I'm interested to see. The hope is that I don't know if you guys ever feel like that, but
always, every shift. I mean, that's like that's like a great like analogy of what ball hockey is. It's like, what do I want to expend my energy on? Because everything you do, you're running there doing it. And then not only are you running, you're going to engage in some kind of like strength thing to like get the ball or get someone off the ball. So yeah, I think it's a constant like decision process of like, what should I expend my energy on? And yeah, I think, you know, as we get older, you know, we're a little older in the game and hopefully we're a little wiser with that too. And we can make, you know, smarter decisions rather than like running everywhere on the rink the whole.
So good point. One of our teammates has a new motto that maybe will help anybody listening or you guys. It's great athletes don't get tired. So just tell yourself that.
Yeah.
Tired, tell yourself great athletes, great players don't get tired. So I forget who said that. That's like a famous quote from somebody, but we're using it. We're taking it. So actually like on Tuesday night, I looked over at our center. He looked exhausted and I said, great players don't get tired. Take a deep breath and you want to. So
good. That's actually part of why I do more. Danny got me into it. Danny was going to run a half marathon with his wife. So we made it a fundraiser for the rink. And I ran with them. And you guys, you know, Anne can relate to this a lot with being an ice hockey player. Ice hockey training is a lot of sprint training, 40, 50 yard dashes, 100-yard dashes.
Yeah, you're done.
So for me, you know, and I was overweight. I was like, I needed something to get back in shape. And I just started running. And I've never been a long distance runner. And I, you know, trained hard and I did it. And I love the mental grind of it though. You know, Danny and I are very big into that on doing things that are going to get us out of our comfort zone. Even though, you know, I'm turning 40 at the end of the year and, you know, looking at that more as just a number and just, you know, like I said, it's been enjoyable, but you know, playing ball hockey in the outdoor championship, I was a little bit confused myself with what you guys are talking about, because I'm like, okay, I have a set target weight that I believe is going to make me not have dad bod. Okay. So I'm like, I have a set weight that I need to be at, that I'm going to look what I want to look comfortable and all this. And then when I was playing ball hockey, I was like, okay, the endurance is there, the sprint factor is there. However, I didn't feel strong enough. Like I felt like I was getting muscled off the ball a little bit. And I'm like, okay, back to the drawing board. Yeah. And again, what's more important? You know, non-dad bod versus bulky. I know what I want to look like. So I'm like, I have to be, maybe I gotta now it's back to, okay, I gotta lift more weight as opposed to doing 15 reps of this. You guys get the point. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. And
that's where it gets confusing a little bit.
Yeah, it is. And I think like Beth was saying, you know, I'm a forward and I run like hell, and Beth is a defenseman and she needs to be stronger and have that core and that, you know, lower
Yeah.
body. So we do train different things. And, you know, I feel it too. Like if I'm a little heavier, I don't feel like I can run as fast. And so it's really like a trade-off, especially with that kind of stuff for me. Do I want to be a little bulkier and stronger, or do I want to like be leaner and faster? And it's kind of made me shift how I play my game too. So totally, that all that stuff comes into play. And then when you're playing ice hockey, it's like doesn't really matter, right? Like
Right.
there's a lot more tolerance for like the weight and the
Absolutely.
It's so true. So, just like to speak to that real quick, like Anne said, I forget where we were last year, but we were talking about playing in the Czech Republic. And I said, I'll be 10 pounds lighter when we play. And she looked at me and she's like, are you crazy? And she's like, no way. And I'm like, no, I will be, because I know that range. And I'm kind of a freak about this. I don't think you need to get into this like level of detail with it, but like, I know the pounds and the like body fat percentage that I need to be at and the strength that I need to be at, and like where I lose 5 to 10 pounds, and that makes me faster, like significantly faster.
Yeah.
And so, but in order to get the strength up, I will bulk and then drop the, you know, the weight, but keep the strength so that I've got the speed. But for me, that's a hard place to stay year round. So, you know, it's like I train really specifically for specific events, like I'm sure you guys are used to, for the marathons, the triathlons, all those things, you know. So it's like, it's kind of cool to have an event, like knowing that Worlds is coming up and know like, okay, I have 9 months to train.
Yeah, it's very motivating.
Like, here's my plan. Yep.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, I have not done a triathlon yet. Dan, I'd like to do one with Dan at some point. Dan's a phenomenal swimmer. Actually,
Yeah, the swimming thing is what gets me about the tries too. I don't want to get in
so
the water.
intimidating. So
Yeah.
intimidating.
I love
There's also
swimming though.
people who will never
swimming,
do
just
like an
not
ocean one versus a lake one or things like that, you know. So it's a kind of there are big barriers. And I think it's good that people are nervous when it comes to the water, because there's like it's kind of like a lot of things, but you know, it's something that if you're really not good at, or you're not prepared, whether it's with, you know, a wetsuit or different things like that, it can be a pretty dangerous thing to do. So, you know, but
a great goal for training, right? Like, same with our thing. If you've got a try coming up, you're going to train because you don't want to be in pain that whole time or have something happen in the swim.
We do. Well, I can't remember if we did it last year or not. We our parents have a place up in Maine, and there's a beach about almost a mile. Was it a mile, Dan?
Yeah, it's like 0.9 or something like that.
0.9. So the 4th of July, when we're up there, that's usually the thing that we do. We swim it, and we swim that cross, and we have usually my stepsons or someone. They're actually put canoes around us, and then they or kayaks, and they row to make sure that we're protected. So it's been a while since Danny and I have done that together. But I try to do it at least once a year, and I love being in the water anyway. I'm not as fast a swimmer is. He's got a much better technique. So I will lie and say I'm negative buoyant, which is probably not true. It's probably not true at all. But that's definitely, like I said, we're big into finding that mental struggle where you have to push yourself to figure out, okay, how do we get better? How do we overcome these things? And things like that.
So, well, I guess that's kind of a question with, you know, not necessarily like, you know, I think I guess it's applicable to most sports, but you know, one of the values of sports is that mental grind. Like my wife and I do, like I mentioned, do Orange Theory. She came from gymnastics. I came from, you know, football, hockey, baseball. And most of the time, you know, when they have these big special days like Everest and all this stuff, we look forward to those days because we're so used to that mental grind and things like that. But I guess, you know, when it comes to people, I guess the pros and cons would be if you have too many people like that. Do you guys ever see a scenario where like what would, I guess, tip the scales for, you know, an environment to be like too, like not hockey-y, but like, you know, too negative or something like that in terms of making sure that, I think the good thing with our program is it's very like, we want it to be competitive, but we stress it for being fun, which is
I get what you mean.
But when you have like adults getting involved, we've always stayed long before we, have had a rink or anything. We've always we were always running it, but we were like avoiding adults.
Well, I think that is a barrier, right? Like, people are scared of like coming out and running. What's cool about Beth's rank in the leagues they run, like, we've got our Sunday leagues, which are like tier 1, 2, 3 and pretty competitive. And then we've got this Tuesday night league, which is a draft league. And so it's, a range of skill, a range of ability. And that really like kind of makes it more, more accessible, more comfortable for everyone. And I think it's like creating those opportunities so it's not as scary, right? Whether it's, it's scary because I'm nervous about being out of breath and like not being able to run, or it's scary because I don't know anyone there and I, won't have friends. So I think it's like finding ways to make it, inviting and accessible to everyone is like what Beth's been working on.
Yeah, I think, thanks, Anne. I think it's, it's creating the opportunity in the space for anybody who wants to play at any level. And that's kind of the challenge, is like, it's not a one size fits all thing. So it's like the more opportunities that you can provide so that the people that want the super competitive, like really physical, have an opportunity to play that. But then the people who have never played before, who just want, or even people who have played, there are people that have been playing their whole life and they're still at the level that they were, 10 years ago. And they're probably going to always be at that level. And they're perfectly happy there. Like, they deserve just as much of an opportunity to play as somebody who's trying to get better or wants to play at, so it's really, I think, being able to provide that range of like somebody who's new, wants to try, wants to play, somebody who wants the super competitive, and then everything in between. And it's challenging to do that, but we just need more people. And once we have more people and players, then we can fill all of those, those areas and divisions. So it's when you have everybody trying to play together that I think it becomes really challenging. But the mental piece of it, like, I can't help but thinking, like, as you're talking about like the mental piece of it, of like our USA team, and like how the mental preparation, like you guys asked about, like preparation and training, and there's all the physical stuff that you have to do, but there's also all the mental stuff, there's all of the mindset training. And I think that's a huge piece of sport in general that sometimes gets overlooked. And I don't think it's any different, or I don't think it was any different for our team. Just the mental aspect of how do you prepare to be ready, especially when you're playing on like a world stage. So
absolutely. Well, I think this would be a good time to ask you guys this then. So in the tournament play, you guys went 4-1 in round robin, and the only loss came to Canada, which, powerhouse team. But then you guys faced them in the finals. What was that like? What was the mental preparation of preparing for a team that you hadn't beaten yet? And this was pretty good.
So Beth and I talked about this ad nauseum together. There's like some really special stories that kind of go along with all these things, but I think just to like set the stage for that final game, we played them in the round robin, and we did have a strategy going into that game. The coaches had decided that we were going to play kind of this more passive forecheck, so we weren't going to be super offensive in our forecheck, playing more of like a trap. And we had practiced that in our camps, and everyone knew how to play that system, and we executed that really, really well in that first game against Canada. We were not aggressive, but it was, intentional. And we did end up losing that game. So, that playing Canada, it was very intimidating. I mean, apart from all of the history that I know, just the US-Canada rivalry of hockey in general is like so great and so meaningful to me. So to play in the world stage against Canada, it just meant so much. So, I tried as much as I can to like clear that out of my mind and, do what we had at hand. But we lost that game, and we played it very strategically to be pretty passive, and we didn't, go hard on the offensive, on the forecheck very much at all. So, we knew we were going to meet them again in the final if we made it there. And so before that final game, the coaches had made the decision to then switch from that very passive forecheck to a more offensive, a more aggressive forecheck. So the idea was, they saw us play this entire game playing really passively. Let's go out there and like shock them right away, and like continually through the game, wear them down and see where that goes. Like we literally I felt really like kind of stifled that first game playing that trap forecheck. That's not how I play. I'm very aggressive. I forecheck hard. I want to play a 2-1 all the time. So excited to go out there, and like, of course, all of the energy and the excitement is like built up, and you're ready to go. So we implemented that, very offensive 2-1 forecheck in that second game. And yeah, I think, Beth, I'll let you maybe tell some story you want, maybe about like how the rest of that game went down.
Yeah, we weren't trying to lose the first game that we played against Canada. Obviously, that was not the intent or the goal, but at no point did we not believe or know that what we were there for was to win that final game. Like that was our goal. That was our mission. That was what we were all there playing for each other, with each other for that. And I go like this because as you're asking, like, what was the mental preparation like? It's almost like, ooh, we've got them right where we want them, because I have never seen coaching like this before, where the game plan was set all the way back at that first tryout where they picked the team. They built the team to be exactly what they wanted it to be and needed it to be to win, because these coaches had they'd all been there before. And not with the outcome that they had wanted. So they put a team together very strategically to play this very strategic game. And we all knew we had kind of a role and a job to do, so it was like, ooh, we've got Canada right where we want them, because they're going to underestimate us. They've seen one style, but we know that's not what we can do more than that. And I think what Anne was alluding to is we were missing a key player. We had multiple times throughout the tournament that we faced tons of adversity. It was something that the coaches talked to us about even prior to going over to the Czech Republic, of like, you're going to face adversity, and what are you going to do in the face of it? So, we had our bus breakdown, we had we had injuries, we had goals being called off, we had, we lost the first game, we had rain to deal with, weather to deal with, like all these different things.
Waiting for buses for hours after the game. There's just so much uncertainty, and like no one had an answer, and it's just like you just go with it, and that's what they kind of told us to be ready for.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
We were totally just like, hey, this is gonna happen, now what? Like, what do you do with it? So, like the mental preparation. But that last game, right before the game, one of our key players, all of our players are key players, because we're part of it. Everybody's part of the package, everybody's part of the team. But Lauren Bracco got injured very early on in the tournament and wasn't able to play. And we didn't know if she was going to be able to play like at all. And right before the last game, before the final, we found out that she was coming back to play. So it almost felt like this perfect sort of storm of all of our secret weapons, like we hadn't shown them everything. We had this great strategy. We had our player who was, feeling better and able to play. And she ended up being the first goal scorer,
scoring the first goal of the game
and of the final. Yeah.
Like you could not have written a better story for her. Like she got injured in like the second game we played, and she was hurting. She was in a lot of pain, and she's honestly probably the kindest person on that team, which says a lot, because amazing women. And she was just devastated, and I didn't think she was going to come back. And I was honestly skeptical when I heard she was going to be playing. So she was our either second or third line center, and she's a flag football player. She's a big, powerful woman, and she scored the first goal, and it was the most incredible, that goal was the most incredible goal I've ever been a part of. Then that wasn't even the winning goal. So it was just such a crazy, you know, full circle thing that happened. I think at that point, like everyone kind of knew what was going to happen. We ended up scoring a second goal. I think it was like early in the second that got called off. I think it was a player in the crease. That's devastating, right? Like to go up 2-0 in a championship game is so different than a 1-goal lead. And then in like, I think later in the second, Canada scored and we played tied 1-1 for much of like the second and I think half of the third.
Mm-hmm.
It was a grind there where it got really physical. There were some really, you know, dirty plays on both sides. It was such an incredible atmosphere. We had the Canada team fans, the US fans, both cheering kind of back and forth in this tiny town in the Czech Republic that like no one has ever heard of. It was such an insanely special atmosphere. But then, so yeah, we're tied 1-1 going into the third. And we had, you know, forechecked hard into their zone. I was in the corner with my center and we kind of coughed the ball up and it went to our defenseman, Karen Levin, who is another one of our captains and just the epitome of a leader on our team. And she kind of deked around, you know, the wing that was covering her and shot and scored. And that was, I'm getting goosebumps now. That was the game goal. And it was, I think that was with maybe like 3 minutes left. So I don't have to tell you guys
3 minutes left.
Like what a nail biter those last 3 minutes were.
Yeah.
So-
We ended up, I think there was like 11 seconds on the clock with a face-off in our zone. You know, Canada obviously pulls their goalie and they had at least 3 shots in the last 10 seconds of play. And yeah, just, you know, and after that it was
there a timeout? Did coach call timeout? Did the staff call timeout for that late in the game and settle you guys down at all? Or
I don't remember that, Beth. I feel like on our end, like things were flowing so well, like we just needed to carry it on. I think we didn't want any delay because, you know, then they their breath or the momentum changes.
That's
like
good.
We most definitely had the momentum that game. And like, you know, we through the Masters, you know, the whole tournament, one part of it that's really special is that you meet all these other teams. And we kind of got to know one of the Canadian men's teams and other teams as well. But, you know, I'll never forget one of the things they said to me after the game. They're like, you guys outplayed them the entire, like there was no question in anyone's mind, Canada fan or US fan, like who deserved to win that game. And we did, and we executed. And it was, you know,
That's
the most
awesome.
special experience in sports I've ever been a part of.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't recall if they called a timeout, but I do remember so clearly after that second goal was called off, you know, you're just instantly deflated.
Yes.
The
feeling like the sick pit in your stomach.
Oh, yes. And
Yeah.
it's like, that could have been such a turning point the other way. But I remember so clearly coach saying, listen, like, we knew this would happen. Like shit like this happens. And we prepared for this. Like we've faced every single adversity that's been thrown at us all week long. This is just part of the game. Let's go out there and play our game, you know, win your battle, win your shift, win the game. And so it was like in that moment, everybody like just took a deep breath. We were like, okay, we got this. And it was, we've got a job to do. Let's go do it. So, yeah, I have total like chills just thinking about it all. And to this day, so Anne and I went to, quick side story, Anne and I went to a Kings game and we walked in, was it a Kings game or a Ducks game? It was a Kings game. We walked in and we were standing under the American flag and they were playing the anthem because we got there just a little bit late. So we weren't in our seats yet. And I looked up and I'm like, Anne, look, it was the first time I had heard the anthem since being in the Czech Republic with Anne. I mean, of course, I just started like bawling, which is unusual for me, but it like took me right back to that moment because the other, you know, you just get so sick of hearing the other country's national anthem like year after year. So for us to stand there and like be part of that and have our anthem played and with all of our teammates, like there's nothing more
Yeah.
incredible.
What has been the response in the ball hockey world to you guys with it? I mean, from my perspective, looking at, the found, Music Ball Hockey's Foundation, the website, the Facebook page, there's a lot of big things for you guys. The pictures were great. Danny knows Larry Furman, who was there. So Larry messaged me telling me that he was there, and I'm like, yeah, I saw your picture of you. Yeah.
Larry's
which was,
amazing, man. He
Love
was
Larry.
obviously a big part of the team.
Yeah. So, and Larry's been big supporter of young legends in Gloucester. He comes down and,
Okay.
and he messaged me and I said, I didn't know you're out there. And he's like, yeah, I didn't know. I think it was like 2 weeks before we
He got the call up.
You guys also, it's a wonderful picture. This is where Danny mentioned me trying to show these pictures during the podcast. There's a nice picture of you guys in your unis on the surfboards, which is, which was well done.
Yeah.
But how do you guys what was the reception like for this? Well, for you guys in this
Beth,
big
you can
one?
go ahead.
The reception like that day, the reception the rest of that week, the reception coming home, even the reception now, like it's awesome. To me, it's an opportunity though. Like it's a thing that, we sort of embrace it and enjoy it, but also we're looking to next year already.
Of course.
But we're also looking to say like, how can we sort of capitalize on this to help grow the game? How can we capitalize on this to help support women and youth in sport? Like, how can we really use this to help grow our sport, whether it's the NBHL or USABH or PCH, like, whatever it is. It's, I think it's a really big deal that the women's team and that it was the Masters team were the team that brought home the first gold. It's just, I don't know if I can put words around it, but, we're the old ladies and we did it. We did something that we don't know that anybody thought we could do. And this definitely is not going to be the last time that the U.S. brings home the gold for any of the U.S. national teams. So I just think it's a really, really amazing thing that we were able to set this sort of like standard precedent, amazing, like sort of marker in history, and hopefully it just continues.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think we really do want to use this going forward, and I think that there's a lot we can do with it, and that maybe we haven't done yet. So we definitely want to do that and work on that. I think Carl, a little closer to home, during the tournament, the support we got from family, friends, people we haven't spoken to for years. It was overwhelming. Beth and I, we play in the same league at PCH, and some of the people that, would text us about the games, we'd be like, oh my gosh, like watching, and be like,
they were watching,
like knew who I was. And it was like, people do care and people look up to us, and, they don't probably express that every day, and why would they? But it was really humbling and really amazing to see the outreach that we got and the support we got during the tournament and after. Like it's that you feel so much more lucky and special to be able to do that and play that. And it added, a little bit of stress, but I think in a good way.
Yeah. People always talk about like you hear people talk about role models and like kids having somebody to kind of look up to in sports. And I look at our team and I think like, wow, we're a real diverse group of women, diverse backgrounds, diverse culturally, ethnically, and it's awesome to me because every woman has a story of what brought her there, what keeps her there. And so I would love nothing more than for those stories to be told so that younger people can look up to and say like, oh, that can be me, because there isn't one path to get there. There's many different paths, and it's available if they want it. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things that has been impressive to me is that even ice hockey is not there. I'm sort of correct this, but when you play ice hockey, Danny and I played select hockey, which is, you know, you could play with a kid that lives 50 miles from where you are. You guys play together and off you go. And then you play for your town.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is very unique about the ball hockey world is there's a sort of closeness that you learn to appreciate. Like even some guys from that we interviewed for the outdoor classic in the seat, this is the novice division, talking about guys getting together to practice their their power play, little things like this. I mean, getting ready for a tournament. And one of the things that I've been really impressed with USA Ball Hockey is I was fortunate to go to Buffalo and see the Future Stars event. And I will share this. I was fortunate enough to be a part of Team Massachusetts Ice Hockey growing up. And like every summer we trained together. I was in North Shore. There was a lot of kids from the South Shore. It was a South Shore program because they chose a rink down there. So we did a lot of traveling. But having the Future Stars event, I think, is huge from the standpoint is that you have these young women, young men coming together. If they stay with the game, creating friendships, like you guys coming together at a camp 3 or 4 times a time. These kids are already getting to know each other at the time they're 12, all the way up till they're adults. That there could be a very, very bright future for these kids playing the game. And that's something that Corey Hursk and I had talked about when we were constructing our rink. I want you guys to know we had no idea about this world. Zero. I mean, we knew of Leominster because we drove by it on the way to an ice hockey game, but we didn't know the concepts of even floating blue versus red if you play deck. And my point to this whole spiel though is that Corey's point is if you're going to build a rink, build it to a size where a kid is growing up playing the rules that maybe someday you can play at an international level. And so we went to 160 by 80, and but I just feel like there's a great model there that not everybody's going to get to the level you guys are at. Not everybody's going to get there. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you could still have a lot of good memories growing up playing at that. I don't know if you guys have not been to Buffalo, I'm assuming, but it's a phenomenal facility. It's fun. It's they had the Chicklets Cup there, by the way. I don't know if you guys follow those guys at all.
Yeah.
But it's a great facility. But I think just what they're building with, hey, I know the kid from Team New York. I'm playing against him, but maybe someday we're teammates and things like this. So I think that's a great model where you guys
Agreed. And I think, one of the things that Beth and I have talked about out here is like getting the kids like involved earlier, right? So they can, learn earlier and maybe get involved in those like regional or national things, because that really is what's going to bring them to the next level. And creating those relationships across state or whatever is so important.
Absolutely. So what was the best part about it other than winning? Was the food good? I gotta ask. No,
food was amazing. Like,
the food was good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I wasn't expecting. I've been there before, but I wasn't really expecting. We found this little Italian restaurant like a block from our hotel, and we were there like 3 times, 4 times, and the bill, and it would be like $40, and we'd had like a 3-course meal and a glass of wine, everyone, and we were like, ridiculous. It's so cheap, but I mean, I think the atmosphere. The chance to be in these little rinks in these tiny towns outside of the Czech Republic, outside of Prague, just like nothing, like it was like a dream world. Like this one rink was like in this grassy kind of like bowl.
I got to see pictures of it.
Pub, and they had they pigs there, and they had steins out on like where are we? Like this, it was surreal. And I think the bonding that you have, with the other teams and the people there, it's just such a special environment that you feel lucky to be there, and everyone is just kind of happy and so grateful. So, but the team and the relationship and the special bond that I have with these women that we won this championship with are, I don't think anything that I'll ever top. And for me, that's, I think, the biggest.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Beth? Any?
Oh, well, like ditto to everything Anne said. The food was amazing. The place we stayed was really interesting. You just always have all of these other like random stories, right? That are with you, memories that you're making with all these people. And, one of the things that I love about ball hockey, I think you sort of said this, Carl, it's like, it brings together people from all like walks of life, sort of, you end up meeting people that you would probably never know otherwise. And these types of international tournaments are just like that. You end up meeting people from all over the world. So Marhefka happens to be a Czech name.
Is it
so
okay?
I was looking on both of the Czech men's and women's teams for another Marhefka, because I wanted to exchange jerseys. I thought that would have been really cool. There was no Marhefka, but the Great Britain team had a Marhefka. Like, really? How random is that, So there's all these other like weird, fun things that happen. But, also having been part of it, having been like blessed to be part of it over a course of years, you end up sort of meeting people and then you see them 2 years later, 4 years later. And so that's pretty cool too, is, the friends and the memories that you make with your teammates, but then also how the ball hockey community just even grows like exponentially because you end up meeting all these other people internationally from, like Anne said, you bond with people from other teams. And so that's like a super fun, really cool experience and part of the whole week also.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I asked you guys about the food. I mean, Danny's been to Paris, which he can tell you about, but my senior year of prep school, my team went to Russia for a tournament. A lot of people would disagree that we should have been playing in our own country for scouts purposes, but I would disagree with that. So we went to Moscow for over Thanksgiving break, because in prep school you get the whole week off as opposed to a couple days. So we were basically jet lagged when we arrived in Moscow, and the coach basically said, he goes, listen, don't go to sleep, let's try to get on their time as quickly as possible. I said, all right, deal. So we were starving. So nothing is open. And they were really big on Fantas or whatever those things are. So like, that's what we were, just to get some sort of horrible nutrition. That's what we got.
Yeah.
So when we arrived in Russia, they told us that, like, listen, we're going to have 2 translators go with you guys everywhere. So they're going to be with you and don't talk to anybody. So fine. So we get on this old bus and we get to the hotel, and it was really cool because people knew the tournament was a Tretiak Cup, which is the old USSR goalie, and it was his tournament. So we got a police escort to the hotel. So we get to the hotel, we're drinking Fanta, and we're, coach says, you got to stay up. And then, all right, the next morning we go down for breakfast and we're so hungry. All of us are like, so hungry, and we get this unbelievable spread, just food everywhere. The hotel, like you guys said, was this massive place. We had a view of the Kremlin across, and we're like, look at all this great food. One bite, and we're like, yeah, this isn't home. And in those days, I was a very, very picky eater. And I'm like, wow, this is just not what I'm expecting. Horrible food. So half our team is like, yeah, I can't stand it. The one kid's like, yeah, this is delicious, and always, there's always that one guy, right? So I'm like, what are we gonna do? So I kid you guys not. What we got for free every week was vouchers to McDonald's. So coach goes, well, we're gonna have an early morning practice, the only practice we're gonna get all week. So we're gonna have, and then we'll go eat again. So I fed on like this little bread type thing, and I was still starving. But anyway, so the translators, there's 2 young women, they go everywhere with us. They have to, because we don't speak the language and nothing. I mean, without them, we're lost. So we get on this old rickety bus, we get a police escort to the rink, we have our practice, and then it's McDonald's time. And we're thinking, US McDonald's, you guys know what it's like. In Russia, it's like top of the line. So I kid you not, you go into a McDonald's in Moscow. I don't know what it's like today with all the sanctions and all that stuff, but you would go in there and you would tell the translator what you wanted. She'd get it for you. You get your lunch or breakfast, whatever it was at this time. It doesn't matter. kid you not, 3 times a day for a week, I ate at McDonald's, and it was delicious. And so
I don't think we
anyway,
can do that anymore, but
I couldn't do that anymore. I die very quickly here, or I get bigger. So what they do though is they give you a nice tray, and you go and you sit down, but you are not allowed to throw your food away. It's an insult. So we learned very quickly, and for someone like me who's very self-sufficient, I'm very, my kids the same way, you clean up after yourself. This was like a big thing at McDonald's. Like you could not do that, like where you get the death stares from these people that were working there. And but I had McDonald's every day. The only thing we did find a pizza place, but it was not good. It was not good. And we drank so much soda over the course of that week. But anyway, and I don't know how Paris was, Danny, but Moscow, I don't want to get, it was a great trip, but that camaraderie, that team building exercise.
Yeah, I mean, we had
a
some
great
fun. We had some fun experiences. We had a peanut butter search that went on for at least a day.
Okay.
And that was successful. But yeah, like,
oh, good.
We're texting. Did you find peanut butter? And like, we can't find it.
Yeah.
Why don't they have bananas? Yeah. So it was, there was, and that is a bonding thing, right? Like going through that together. And one of the funny things, like I'm thinking about, like kind of one of the adversity things we came across is the rinks we were playing on were not covered. And so we had rain a couple games.
Sure.
And
I meant to ask about that.
one of the, we needed a solution to like, overcome the slippery deck. And me and another girl, we went to several hardware stores just within walking distance from our hotel to try to find like adhesive. We bought sandpaper. We're like sandpapering the bottom of our shoes, putting adhesive,
Really?
because like we didn't have any other options.
Did it work?
A little bit. So actually Napper like totally capitalized on this. They came
Yes, they did. I heard.
in there and they had their waterproof or water shoes. And I think like, probably 20 people from the Canadian and the USA team had those in like the last game. Like, so
Nice.
they did well, but shout out
That's
to
awesome.
Napper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Napper,
all sorts of fun things like that,
That's good.
diversity and, experiencing a new country and navigating a new country that like bond you. Right. And I think that was one of the things that made being in the Czech Republic so special, because we were there on our own and we were like, okay, we were in this together. And, if it were in a place like, Canada or the US, like everyone can get around and maybe there's more family there and you're doing your own thing. But we really were this like, this tight group and we only had each other, and
Yeah.
made
That's
it that
awesome.
much more special.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for listening to Russia stories too, by the way. There's more, but they're unusual.
well, the one that I always remember is you always said that there was kids asking for your autograph because they thought that you might be going to the NHL eventually.
That's funny.
Danny's actually would bring this up. I mean, like none of my teammates, like we played at a high Division I prep level, but none of us were being recruited for like D1. Our team was pretty good, but we didn't have any. Our goalie was being kind of recruited by one of the NHL teams, but I wouldn't even go that far because but this is what was just mind blowing to me, because I ended up having a good tournament over there where I scored a few goals. I led our team in points, and I would get off the ice and my teammates, we'd all walked. They would literally, you would have all these Russian kids that your age just lining up to want you to give them something like a stick or like, and at one point, like there were these girls that would follow you to the dressing room only to have like a police officer start to like, like tell you, and it was a very, like, I just think these people thought that we were all going to go to the NHL when none of us were. And in fact, just how crazy this was is we got our asses kicked by the Russian national army team. Okay, so it's not like they beat us good. So it made us really well. So it wasn't like we were the studs there, you know what I mean? But it was still a great atmosphere. But yeah, Danny's right. I kind of buried some of that because there would be all kinds of people. But a lot of the young, like the little kids, the little boys and girls, they were like, they wanted you to give them something. Like, I can't give you this, and the sticks they used, I mean, even though some of these Russian kids, I'm like, how do you play? Like, we all have these fancy synergies. I'm dating myself now, but we're like, how are you guys beating us with these sticks that are just
With the
basically
wooden
wood?
stick,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? And I mean, this is 03 now, so this is
Yep.
now I'm really dating myself, or 02. So, but it was a great experience, and I feel privileged that I got a chance to go over there and play there. I mean, I want to say that this was right around the time. This was before, I think Ovechkin was already in the NHL, I think, or he was so close. But there were some really good quality skaters and players over there, and we did win a few games too, but we got handed to a few. But yeah, good old Russia. I wouldn't recommend going there now,
Yeah,
with
maybe not
everything,
right now. Yeah.
but it was a good experience for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I don't miss that stuff, I guess, anymore. Dan's been to Paris, so he can tell you that was a good experience, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just not really, related in a
Hockey
sense. 'Cause
West.
it was just, yeah, I just, did French in high school, was an opportunity to go for like a week or 9 days and stuff. So, yeah, I'd love to go back just because, there's so many historical things to go to and stuff. So that's basically what we did nonstop, was just went and traveled with like our tour group and stuff like that. So, it wasn't hockey related, but was a lot of fun.
We had several women that hadn't been abroad, and I think it was like really a special experience for them because of that. So what an amazing thing for hockey to be able to offer them the chance to see somewhere else. So
Absolutely.
amazing thing about the whole experience.
We want to go to Bermuda. That's where we want to go. So
yeah, I know. That's where I want the
you guys-
tournament to be again.
I know
so.
Beth has been there. So Dan's always
Yeah.
like, if
Yeah,
if we
I've
can
been
play
there,
there.
yeah.
He's been there, but he's like, I don't know if his wife would, I don't know if my wife would really want to go see ball hockey Dan in Bermuda, but especially my wife, I'm not doing that.
Well, she would. My wife would go to Bermuda. She wouldn't attend the game.
Yeah, she would
Going,
That's a vacation to
it's like go to a spa type of thing.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Yeah, we're still hoping it's there 1 year in the future. I don't know. It's not there, but maybe the next one.
How
They
did
were amazing hosts, so we would gladly go back.
Yeah. It's when did you guys finish in that tournament? Was that you guys have come close? So this is not
Silver lost
silver.
to
It was
Canada.
silver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So you guys so close. So,
Yeah.
So I just sort of wrap. Is there anything else you guys want to share about that trip that I'm not asking or I'm missing? Is there, I thank you for reliving it, by the way. I mean,
Oh, it was great.
It's special for us to hear it. Give you guys an outlet to even share this story. So.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. It's awesome to think about it. Like you walk away from it and there are things that remind me of it sort of, here and there. But you don't really get to share in a whole lot of detail or look back and, even like reflect on it. So thanks for the opportunity. I mean, it was just such a special experience. I think, the team was incredible. And I give the coaches a lot of credit for that, for bringing together a team that was built not just based on skill or talent, but based on character. And I think that was such a huge part of it. And it, like I said, like every woman has a really unique story, and
Absolutely.
to share all of them would be amazing. But it was unlike any team that I've ever played on before. Just such a special experience. So thanks for bringing us on to talk about it a little bit.
My pleasure. It was, I hadn't talked to you in a while, Beth, and you texted me, it was nice to hear from you. And I was, with the podcast, with everything that went on with our rink last year, Dan and I just were overwhelmed with, that's a story in itself, with some of the things that we went up against and what we weren't expecting. You guys mentioned adversity. There was a lot of it that came our way last year as we're getting so close to the end. Little things like inflationary prices and things like this that you don't expect it. But so it was great for you to reach out to me, and I was watching from afar. I would watch the games, but I were they broadcast at all? I tried to find.
It was streamed,
It
but
was
they were
streamed.
always super early, like
Okay.
2 a.m. Well, I guess that was
4 a.m.
4
like
a.m.
West
2
Coast
a.m.
time. Yeah.
So
And
we
I was pleased because Larry messaged me. I already knew you won. So I already had known, Laz, like, I got my medal and everything. I'm like, I know. It's great. I saw a picture. I think it was Terry Milby that had already posted the picture. I'm like, I saw you. I knew you won, but
and I mean, we should give a shout out to Terry. Like, it was so amazing having her there to like document some of this stuff, and she's an amazing artist. I'm so grateful
everywhere.
Photos that I have, like, she captured that game-winning goal that Karen scored in the gold medal game, and like that's something that I'll never be able to recreate. So she was so supportive, and was feeding us pictures right away. So
yeah,
really
that's
nice
awesome
over there.
I hope people will check that out too on USA Ball Hockey's website. Is there anywhere else where we can get more information about you guys? By the way, I meant to ask because there's some great pictures of you guys, a team photo. I think it's the both of you, and you're on Beth's shoulders.
Yeah, there's a picture out there like that. We do that. I think the link to the game is on the USAB's website still. Okay. So
I'll check it out. I'd like to rewatch. I haven't.
Watch the third period. The third period is if you got limited time.
I haven't watched it. I'd like to. Sometimes, like I said, usually I go to YouTube and I find a lot of old games. and I wouldn't say I watch a lot of it, but anymore I don't have the time. But it's definitely, congratulations to both of you guys. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
So sort of to wrap up, is there any, Beth, is there any way people get in touch with you as well for Pacific Coast and things like this?
You can check out our website, pacificcoasthockey.org, or you can email me at beth@pacificcoasthockey.org. And I'm open to chatting with anybody about anything hockey related. I also sit on the board of the United Women's Ball Hockey Foundation. Founded by Alessandra, and a bunch of other amazing women, including Karen and Jay, and Larry sits on that board also. Yep. So, shout out to them. That's another way to get involved. So for people looking to get involved in ball hockey in general, United Women's Ball Hockey Foundation has opportunities. It lists all the opportunities across the country where women can play in either women only leagues, co-ed leagues, or, with the guys. USABH.com, obviously, and then locally, PacificCoastHockey.org is our local information for anything kids or adult related in Southern California.
Awesome. Well, great work out there. I mean, I know this is a long time coming for you. We, believe it or not, we met with Empower Play a couple years ago, but we were pretty deep in the process where, it wasn't really work, but I know they're trying to build up these rinks. So you guys done a great job out there, and great job winning and putting it on the map. And I'm very proud of, we had one girl from our program, Anna Parsons, who played in Buffalo this year. And I was telling her that you guys had, she's in high school now, but I had told her dad that you guys had won, check it out, and things like that. So I hope that more people get in the game. That's something we're going to be doing. And by the way, speaking of UWs, is that we're planning on having them come out and do a clinic for all females and youth and women, because we have what's amazing. We just posted our first thing saying we're going to have a spring division with women. I was blown away by the women's response. So, the local youth hockey moms wanted to have a team, and I'm like, this is, because I feel like Danny will tell you this too. It's kind of like this underserved group of people.
Totally. Yeah.
So, and moms go out there and show their sons.
Yep.
They can do it too.
Get them out there.
So thank you guys. And Dan, any last thoughts before we wrap up, man?
No, just to reiterate, congratulations to you guys, and thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. I think that we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to grow the game, getting, on this podcast and just, getting the word out there is super helpful, and it's super fun to get all these different stories and things like that. So we just appreciate your time. Definitely. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I think we're going to be back next month, Danny, with Matt and Dave Norton to talk NBHL Boston. That's the game plan on my schedule. But hopefully, you guys come back soon. We can chat again. Maybe we can talk more about Russia. No,
Right.
no.
You can trade
You
travel
guys-
stories.
Nobody wants to hear about that. But we do want to hear more about the Czech Republic because that was great. So thank you, Ann. Thank you, Beth. And,
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
you guys
guys.
next time. Oh, by the
Have a
way,
good one.
Napper. I hope they reach out to you guys now, telling about their shoe. I had a nice meeting with those guys. Do you know them by any chance?
Yeah, we're in contact.
Martine and JF?
JF.
Yeah, they were bragging about that shoe. So
Hey, it worked. It did work. I
It
will
did, so
admit. Everyone was
will-
surprised.
good guys. So all right, we'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, guys.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.